Mr. Rajesh Gupta. He is from Hydraulic Trainers Owners Association, and he's going to be joining us with the speakers. May I request at this point Shri Vijay Chibbar, Secretary, Ministry of Road Transport and Highways, to join us on the dais for this session. Big round of applause once again for Shri Chibbar. Thank you very much, sir, for being here with us for another session. And I'd like to now request Professor Mahesh Tandon, Chairman, TBGE Consortium, to kindly join us on stage. Professor Mahesh Tandon, there he is. He is an international expert in the field of structural engineering. Many of the structures designed by Professor Tandon and his firm, Tandon Consultants, have been widely acclaimed and have received recognition in India as well as internationally. Warm welcome, sir. He was appointed Distinguished Visiting Professor at the Indian Institute of Technologies, Kanpur and Roorkee by the Indian National Academy of Engineering and the All India Council for Technical Education. We thank you, sir, for taking time out and gracing the occasion with your presence. I'd like to now request Shri Kamal Bali, Managing Director of Volvo India, and he has been introduced in the inaugural session. He's joining us on stage now. And we have BHEL representing us on this session as well, and from BHEL we have Mr. Dave joining us. Executive Director BHEL, Mr. Dave, is requested to join us on stage. Huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. He's going to be representing Shri Rao, the Chairman of BHEL. Warm welcome to you, sir. May I now request Shri A.A. Badusha, Deputy Director ARAI, to kindly join us on stage. And ladies and gentlemen, he is the Deputy Director and Head of Vehicle Evaluation Laboratory at Automotive Research Association of India, Pune. ARAI is the research association of the automotive industry with Ministry of Heavy Industries and Public Enterprises, Government of India. Warm welcome to you, sir. We'd also like to welcome Shri Harsh Dhingra, Chief Country Representative and Whole-Time Director, Bombardier Transportation, India. Ladies and gentlemen, the organization that supplied the Delhi Metro, the manufacturers, Shri Harsh Dhingra represents. He is the Chief Country Representative and Whole-Time Director of Bombardier Transportation India. He's a seasoned engineering and management professional with over 25 years of rich consulting experience in the field of the rail and metro transportation segment, one of the senior rail transportation industry personnel out of India, who's been playing an active role in transforming rail transportation sector in India, liaising with government officials in defining policies for projects and placing India's rail industry on the global map. We welcome you, sir. We'd also like to welcome Shri BML Garg, the Director at Indian Wind Turbine Manufacturers Association. Please welcome Mr. Garg with a round of applause. Warm welcome, sir. We thank you for taking the time out and gracing this occasion with your presence. We'd also like to invite Mr. Aditya Sharma, and he is a Gifford Bridge consultant. Warm welcome to Mr. Sharma. A huge round of applause for Mr. Aditya Sharma, ladies and gentlemen. He's the Gifford Bridge consultant, and he's going to be bringing his experiences to us in this session. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, our esteemed dignitaries are here. I would request the HTOA members to be ready with the flowers so that we can felicitate our speakers who are joining us in this session. Can we please request Mr. Ram Ratan Agarwal to join us on stage and do a few honors and felicitate our speakers with floral mark of honors. Mr. Patel, may I request you to step up on stage and thank our speakers, starting with, say, Mr. Dave from BHEL. Can we have the flowers coming on stage? Next, ladies and gentlemen, Professor Mahesh Tandon, Chairman, TBGE Consortium. And may I request Mr. Patel, you will only have to do the honors. The others are there. Okay, I will invite, first I request Mr. Patel to present the flowers. May I request Mr. Pradeep Bansal to kindly join us on stage if he's around. and present the next one to Shri A.A. Badusha. Warm welcome to you, sir. Shri B.M.L. Garg, the Director at Indian Wind Turbine Manufacturers Association. We thank him for his presence as well. Shri B.M.L. Garg. May I request one of the HTOA members to please step up on stage and present one to Shri Harsh Dhingra. Mr. Aditya Sharma is here with us as well. There he is, and we would like to thank him with a floral mark of honor. May I request one of our H2A members to kindly present a floral mark of honor to him as well. Ladies and gentlemen, can we hear a huge round of applause for our esteemed dignitaries? We have, of course, met Shri Chibbar in the morning, and I have introduced you to him in the morning. The other eminent dignitaries on the dais are Mr. Dave, Executive Director, BHEL. We have Mr. Aditya Sharma, who's a Gifford Bridge consultant. We have Professor Mahesh Tandon, Chairman, TBGA Consortium. We have Shri Kamal Bali, Managing Director, Volvo India. Shri A.A. Badusha, Deputy Director, ARAI. Shri Harsh Dhingra, Chief Country Representative and Whole-Time Director, Bombardier Transportation, India. And we have Shri B.M.L. Garg. Ladies and gentlemen, we would also like to thank our moderator with flowers. So the HTOA members here, can I request any one of you to present Mr. Rajesh Gupta from Hydraulic Trailers Owners Association with a bouquet of flowers before I hand it over to him. And we truly expect that this is going to be a very interesting session, ladies and gentlemen. And so with that, I request you to kindly take over as the chair of this session.
Honorable Secretary Shri Vijay Chhabbarji and dignitaries on the dais, I welcome everybody on this first panel session of discussions. And our topic is modular hydraulic trailers, a must to achieve Make in India vision getting true. So we have made a set of few topics which we will be discussing. And first we would explore the benefits of hydraulic trailers to the users across the industry. We have just seen an audiovisual clip of one of the manufacturers of the hydraulic axle, and you must have seen what is actually an hydraulic axle and how it operates. So I would request Mr. Vijay Chhabbarji to highlight what is his observation on the benefits of the hydraulic trailers which he has seen over a period of so many years.
I don't think the benefits of hydraulic trailers is something that really needs to be overstated, because it's very obvious that a emerging economy, particularly an economy the size of our country, and here we are talking about not only products which require transportation which are manufactured within the country, even imported cargo. The transportation of these cargoes to their intended destination. There cannot be industrialization in the country in a serious sense unless we talk about hydraulic trailers. And the earlier we facilitate this transformation from the traditional modes of transport to hydraulic trailers, the better. One, better because it's the safe and the right thing to do. It also ensures that our road assets, our bridge assets do not get degraded in an unintended manner. We have been trying to do conditional survey for the bridges in particular. There has been some delay, and actually that was the hesitation that we had when we were launching this portal. There was a little delay in the launch of the conditional surveys, which are now in the process of getting launched. I wish we could have completed at least the first round of that activity and then come to the launch. But having said that, we could see the anxiety and the stress both on the part of the manufacturers of these over-dimensional cargoes and the logistic operators who handle it. And in the last 1 year, there has been fairly intense activity in terms of trying to time and sequence what needs to follow. One of the issues we ourselves noticed in the ministry was the fact that several participants or players from the government sector, both central and state government, who should actually have been facilitators in this movement, were actually becoming part of the problem. And it was in this context that we therefore decided to hasten the launch of the portal. This portal will be accessible to all the representatives of the central government and the state governments. So to that extent, transparency within the government system is very much there. The excuse that we are not aware of the fact that a particular cargo has received clearances or not, that would not obtain. The fact that trailers, hydraulic trailers, were not being recognized so far as part of the Act, that has been corrected. Notifications, if not already issued, will be issued shortly. So we are now actually at the stage where we just need to hasten this shift to large consignments, to the appropriate methods of moving these large consignments. And in that endeavor, whatever else requires to be done shall be done. We may have a learning curve in the first 6 months because even in the team in the Ministry of Road Transport and Highways, there is still a hesitation as to which particular route can be allowed for what type of cargo. But I'm sure this is only a matter of time. As I said, the first cycle of conditional surveys will get completed within the next 6 months. And thereafter, we should be having no excuses as to what can be offered as an optimum corridor for the transportation of over-dimensional cargoes through the hydraulic trailers. Thank you.
Sir, thank you so much. I would also request Mr. Dave. He's from the BHEL, and BHEL is one of the biggest users of our hydraulic axles. They are manufacturing big transformers, heavy transformers, stakers, turbines, and I would request Mr. Dave to express what benefits BHEL has seen in usage of the hydraulic axles.
Good morning, everybody.
Thank you.
I was involved in this transportation of the heavy equipment ODC and OWC consignment because I was working in the transformer division and with BHEL for the last 39 years. I was worked in the transformer divisions of the Bhopal as in charge from 7 to 2011. And I can realize, and then Executive Director BHEL Jhansi. So I can realize the importance of the hydraulic trailers. When I look back, when we used to have a mechanical trailers, and those trailers were converted from the trailers for movement of the tanks. And then the era came when we have got HVDC consignment, more than 180 ton, that is 200 ton. And then we realized that this is to be transported with the special wagons. So BHEL used to have special wagons, and then it took a lot of time to get the sanctions of the ODC consignment, and the end-to-end point transport was not possible. Now, from last 15 years, more than 15, 20 years, we started doing use of hydraulic trailer, and when we are constructing a new transformer block, now we are not putting any the rail line where the railway wagons are required. So the UHV transformer block, which has been made in Bhopal is the main area, and Haridwar is the area where we transport heavy weight and ODC consignment, where we have got a transformer weight up to 350 ton we already transported. It is to be transported by the multimodal, and hydraulic trailers plays a very important role at both the ends. And we also transport turbo generators, turbines, and other heavy equipments like gas turbines. Just now, our chairman, CMD BP Rao, has mentioned that we have lost two major equipment, one gas turbine and one turbo generators during transportation. Similar thing has happened in the past in the transformer also. There are 4 or 5 transformers we have lost because of this, of not transporting with the hydraulic trailers. So with the advent of the hydraulic trailer, a new era has come. Only thing is this, that we have to make sure the quality of the trailers along with the puller should be maintained so that the safe transport can be done. And with the new initiative of the STOA and Ministry of Road Transport, we are able to see that things will get easier, and as for the people will get more convenience and transporting by the hydraulic trailers, and which will help us in Make India concept, heavy consignment, not only in the power industry, but in the chemical industries, in the petrochemical industries, can be transported very easily with these hydraulic trailers. They've got a lot of maneuverabilities, and they can tackle the curves and the Indian roads very well, and the hydraulic trailers is the call of the day, and I wish all the success for this STOA association, which will be adding a very, very important aspect and helping our country to go. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I understand BHEL has been making heavy packages, and apart from that, even the wind power industry is very big in our country, and it is growing at a very big pace. And they also have special requirements of long blades, the heavy rotor machines. And I would request Mr. BML Garg, who's the director of the Indian Wind Turbine Manufacturer Association, to express how the usage of hydraulic axles is helping their industry and what are the benefits they see.
Wind industry started from making 55 kilowatt machines in 1990s. Now we are making machines up to 2.5 megawatt. So the size of the machine has gone up. So we have critical components like blades, tower and nacelle. So at present, towers up to 50 tons weight and blades 9 to 11 tons, but length of blade varies from earlier it was only 10 meters. Now the length of blade has gone up to 45 meters. So we have to have extendable, I think, trailers for carrying these blades. And you will appreciate that most of our sites are located in a remote and inaccessible areas. So we have to use national highways, state highways, as well as the local infrastructure developed at the local level. So sometimes we have to develop some infrastructures ourselves, like making of roads for these sites and all these things. So we are at present making about projects about 2,000 to 3,000 megawatt per year. The ministry has set up a goal of capacity addition of 10,000 megawatt per year. You see the demand is going to increase tremendously. So we have to have that infrastructure. We cannot use the traditional trailers for movement of this heavy equipment. So this, I mean, your hydraulic trailer and extendable trailer can help us a lot in creating this infrastructure. So our consignments are over-dimensional as well as oversize, I mean overweight. So we have to meet those targets. So, and moreover, our projects are very much time specific. So in order to avail some sort of depreciation and other benefits, these projects are short gestation projects, and we cannot afford to have a longer haulage time for this equipment. So I think we need your cooperation and support for movement of all this heavy equipment to the sites in order to achieve our targets. So we hope that this hydraulic trawler and your extendable trailers can help us a lot. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. And I would now request Shri Harsh Dhingra ji, who's from Bombardier, who's one of the biggest manufacturers of metro coaches. India is growing on metro projects in most of the cities in the country, and today metro coach transportation by hydraulic axles is also in huge numbers, and I would request Mr. Dhingra to express his views on the benefits his industry, his company has gained. from hydraulic axles?
Sure, I will. Just to give you a brief about why we selected the hydraulic trailers, because when we set up the factory in 2007 in Gujarat, we decided at the site which is at Savli, which is just near the railway track. So that time we had a choice of sending the metro cars by rail because it was a broad gauge car. So we thought that it is better to send the metro cars by rail. Unfortunately, we could not get the clearance from Indian Railways, and it was good because the time which was required to ship the car by train was almost like 45 to 60 days. And then we were in touch with these hydraulic trailer transporters who had these trailers with them. And we were given a commitment that within 15 days the metro car will be delivered to Delhi from our site at Savli. And since 2007 till 2010, we have delivered over 600 cars to Delhi. There was a time, especially during the Commonwealth Games, you will recall, when there was a pressure on the industry to run more number of trains at Delhi. That time we have almost delivered 1 car per day from our site, and which was delivered to the site in Delhi within almost 8 to 10 days, and we were able to convert these cars into train sets, almost 6 train sets a month, and that would release the pressure on the Commonwealth Games. So if I see the benefit as compared to rail transport, hydraulic trailers is something for the future, what we have already seen it. And if I can speak on behalf of the metro organization, because there are 3 metro car manufacturers in India now. The consignments are coming from Bangalore to Delhi, which almost take about 25 to 30 days. And majority of this transport, I think almost 100% is now being used on the hydraulic trailers. And if I see the demand for the metro cars coming for the smaller cities which are being envisaged from the requirement of the Ministry of Urban Development, almost like 500 to 600 cars required to be shipped in the next 4 to 5 years. Obviously, the dependence on hydraulic car will be much more than what it is today. And just to add on the aspect of the requirement of these hydraulic trailers, as compared to conventional trailers, we want that the metro cars to be delivered safe, on time, and at a lower cost. And this is something which the hydraulic trailers have delivered for us.
Thank you so much. So we have views from the users, from BHEL, from the windmill industry, from the metro coach industry. And I would also, we have an interesting panel of consultants and bridge designs from ARAI also, who have studied the hydraulic axle equipment and have been very instrumental in recommending to bring the hydraulic axles into the Motor Vehicle Act. So I would request Professor Tandon. Professor Mahesh Tandon is the chairman of the TBGE consortium, who has helped the Hydraulic Trailer Association in preparing the report of usage of hydraulic axles in multiple combinations, longitudinally, latitudinally, on various kinds of bridges in the country. There are various bridge designs. We had done a study of 16 type of bridges, and based on which the report was prepared by them and their team. And this report was presented to the ministry, and because of this technical calculations and the support of this report, the ministry has also been able to take forward in devising a formula and the procedure. And today what we see, this online portal of the permission, is based on that report which was done by your team, sir. So I would have some views from you, sir, regarding how hydraulic axles is beneficial to the national property in the country, to the roads and the bridges, and how they protect our national roads and bridges.
Okay, thank you. Honorable Secretary, Ministry of Road Transport and Highways, Mr. Chibbard, other dignitaries on the dais, ladies and gentlemen, I am representing a consortium of 4 consultants. TBGE is not a company, it's a consortium of consultants who were given the responsibility of carrying out a desk study of the existing bridges in the country and how they would be affected by the movement of these over-dimensioned and overweight vehicles which are going to ply on it. Now, India has been growing and making bridges for the last century, which are still in existence and on which heavy traffic is moving, and they are still existing. We have to make sure that when a heavy vehicle moves over a bridge, whatever its vintage and whatever type of bridge you have, that it is not damaged. There are no issues of safety because you have got men and equipment and so much of money moving over it. And of course, the bridges are a national asset which we can't let any damage to happen unnecessarily. Now, this is a complex problem because of like I said, the variety of bridges of various materials spread all over the country. And the question is that how to make sure it is safe. So what we did was that when these bridges were originally designed, they were designed to a particular loading, which is the IRC loading. Now, there is a code in our IRC, that's the Indian Roads Congress, which tells you that when you have an over-dimensioned vehicle or an overweight vehicle, what precautions you should take. For example, there should be no other vehicle which should be standing on the bridge or passing over the bridge, except the vehicle which is the over-dimensioned or overweight vehicle. It should go at a speed of 5 kilometers per hour. And there are other restrictions, but I won't get into too many details. But these restrictions, of course, have to be followed. But the question still remains, if you have, let us say, a 500-ton payload on a multi-axle trailer, is it safe or not? How to determine that? Every time you can't make an analysis of a particular bridge. So what we did was the most common type of bridges we took, and we found out their safety vis-a-vis the original design load. Design load is the IRC loading. So if they are safe, these should be safe. The other thing is that you are allowed certain overstressing, which is not permitted in the original design. But when you have once in a while a vehicle of this over-dimensioned, overweight vehicle moving on it, then should we have the same factors of safety? Should we have the same stress limits, which are actually governed by durability considerations and so on and so forth? So it is not necessary. You have to find out what can be permitted. And fortunately, there is already a code in the Indian Roads Congress which tells you that you can allow this 25 to 30% overstress. This does not mean failure, incidentally. Overstressing doesn't mean failure. It means that the allowable stresses, whichever were fixed, you can go above that. Now, the hydraulic trailers, as you may have seen in this beautiful audio visual, is a strange animal. It's multi-axle, it's modular, which means that you can add 2 axles at a time. Something which starts with a 4-axle, you can keep on adding 2 axles and make it longer and longer. So if you have a particular weight to be put on to be transported, it may not be safe, for example, for 8 axles. So what you do is, you check whether it is okay for 10 axles or 12 axles, the same weight. So you can increase the length of the trailer, and the number of axles can be increased. This is most beneficial. If you have a concentrated load of 500 tons moving on the bridge, of course it is not safe. But once it gets distributed, it can be checked whether it is safe or not. And that has been the purpose of this whole study. So you should not get frightened by just looking at what is the payload. Oh, it is so much, and so it can't go over the bridge. That's not the way to approach it. It's a question of how you distribute the load. And another strange thing about this animal called the hydraulic trailer is that you can put a load on, let us say, a 16-axle trailer in the middle, but it gets distributed equally on all the axles. This is something which is ensured by this manufacturers, which is something amazing. and it does not get affected by, as you saw in the audiovisual, if you are going on an uneven road, it doesn't mean that the distribution changes. It remains the same. You may be going on a curve, you may be going on a camber, you know, where the thing tilts. So this is something which is exceedingly novel, I would say. So what our study was that which are the trailers, firstly, which can be allowed on certain types of bridges without any check of stresses at all. So this way we carried out, and we found out how many axles are required for any type of loading. So that is the other thing that has come out. There are certain types of loads which cannot be allowed. Those also have been identified. So what you have to do is either break up that huge thing. I'm sure the coach cannot be broken up into two parts, but there are many other things which we are transporting, which will be broken up into two parts. If it is so heavy that you can't even think of carrying it over a bridge, then it has to be done like that. So basically this is what the whole thing is, and this is only the first step, I would say, in the facilitation of the movement of hydraulic trailers. This is not the end study. This is the initial study. It is so important what the Honorable Secretary mentioned. You first have to determine the health of a bridge. If the health of the bridge is such that it can't even take the Indian Roads Congress loading, what is the use of checking it for something which is heavier and allowing 25% higher stresses and all that? Doesn't make sense. So the condition survey of the bridge is exceedingly important. The other thing he mentioned was in his morning presentation about the bridge management system. Since I have been associated with the Ministry of Road Transport and Highways for many, many years, we have made many initiatives to induct this bridge management system. Unless you know what you have, there is no use trying to find out which is the best route and so on and so forth. You have to find out what is the existing thing you have and what is this condition, and it must be updated so that all the people who are moving on these particular routes, they know, okay, this is the problem bridge, this is a problem bridge, and so on and so forth. But this can be done only if you have data. At the moment, despite several efforts with the Ministry of Road Transport and Highways in the past, we have not been able to have a bridge management system. It has become now exceedingly important, and it's very complex problem because you have a software which you can select only once. You cannot keep changing the software. The software which will have the bridge management data and the bridge data, it can be selected once. You can do a lot of studies, select it once, and then all the people who are doing this bridge, the condition survey, must adhere to whatever data is required in the format that is required to be filled in to suit that particular software. So if you have, let us say, India is a large country and you got 10 people doing condition survey and each person has his own format, there is no use. First you must find out what the software requires, and then what is the format in which the data must be given, and that must be preserved and then periodically updated. This condition survey is so important. Anyway, I think that probably I have
request Aditya Sharma ji, since
yeah,
he's also
part of the group.
Yeah. Part of the bridge consultants.
Yeah.
Aditya ji, what do you feel? What is your views? Does it match with Professor Tandon?
Yeah, it is. It's a great study which has been done on behalf of HTO with the initiative from Ministry of Road Transport and Highways. And I still remember that we started in mid of 2011 and completed, it took us about 7-8 months, and we used to sit Mr. Tandon's office every week to work out the modalities that how this thing will be done. As already explained by Mr. Tandon, that we did the study based on the data given by us by HTO from trailers HT1 to HT13, and then we start looking into the modalities and parameters that how we will do that study. and we decided that let's decide upon the flock of bridges which are generally available on generally existing on the national highways. And we worked out that the generally existing bridges on national highways is from 5 to 50 meter, and we did the study after every 50-meter interval for different type of bridges. You know, it's all RCC bridges, pre-stressed concrete bridges, composite bridges, steel trusses, and then masonry structures also. And we compared the load effects of IRC loading vis-a-vis the hydraulic trailer loadings, and that culminated into a ready reckoner, which has ultimately become the part of the guidelines issued by MORTH afterwards. And that ready reckoner itself, as Mr. Tandon explained, that you can't do analysis for each and every bridge, but that ready reckoner gives you the idea that, you know, for what load at what trailer you can take, on which bridge you can take, and then if that loading, and we have given that ready reckoner in a color format with green and red also, and if it is green, that means that load can pass on that bridge, and if it is red, that means that load cannot pass on that on that bridge, but how much load that can pass on that bridge is also indicated on that ready reckoner which we gave that, which has ultimately become the part of the guidelines issued by MORTH. As explained by Honorable Secretary also, that infrastructure is part and parcel for the development of the country, and these are the motives, you know, behind all this study, that the major infrastructure projects are being planned in the most of the remote areas, and how these big equipments are being, you know, taken to that areas. And even after the study, we are involved into number of further studies, because the studies restricted to 5 to 50 meter spans, but in between the travel of that particular load, there are some bridges which are not falling into the guidelines given issued by MORTH. So there may be some special studies required on the bridges which are not falling within the guidelines, but all that study, I still, you know, I would like to emphasize that whatever study we did, it is all based on the ambit of existing IRC guidelines, like IRC SP 37, IRC 6. So we try to, you know, work out a methodology which should be suited, and it's great, you know, we have reached to that stage where the web portal is released for HT1 to HT3, and as told by Ministry, that this will be further extended from HT3 to higher loads.
So it's basically hydraulic axles are safer for the bridges and the roads.
Yeah, with the assumption that Mr. Tandon has already explained, that it has a uniform loading, it distributes the load uniformly, which is the assumption behind our whole study.
We have always been talking about the modular hydraulic trailer, hydraulic axles. Always the focus is always on the hydraulic axles. But we always forget that the hydraulic axle is driven by a puller. It's driven by a prime mover, which also has huge capacity of horsepower, and it requires adequate pulling capacity to pull that weight of the axle and the weight of the cargo. As Professor Tandon said, the uniqueness of the hydraulic axle is that it is modular. We can add the number of axles, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. We can add them depending upon the weight of the cargo, distribute the load into more number of axles to avoid the damages to the roads and the bridges. But equally, the prime mover, the puller, is also important, with sufficient traction, with sufficient ballast box and pulling power. And here we have Mr. Kamal Bali, Managing Director from Volvo, and we also have Scania today as our sponsors, which are manufacturing these heavy prime movers, which are coupled with these hydraulic axles through a drawbar and used for these movements. So I would request Mr. Kamal Bali also to come forward and explain us how this entire combination from the prime mover, the pulling and the traction, and this product benefits the entire axle trailer.
This one? Okay, good afternoon, Mr. Chibber, Honorable Secretary from the Ministry, Mr. Gupta, Mr. Tandon, my other co-panelists on the dais, ladies and gentlemen. Today is a great day of joy as well as fulfillment. Joy because I think one of the very major pain points of HTOA has been resolved. And I'm sure more is going to come in the days ahead. Fulfillment because a number of stakeholders who have been involved in this journey have got their vision realized to an extent today. I'm not going to speak too much about the merits of hydraulic trailers, which so many leading experts before me have spoken about in detail, but I'm going to touch upon some bigger topic, and I want to leave some food for thought behind when we leave this room today. I want to touch about what is Make in India and what are the very major ramifications and the issues which it throws up. And that's going to be my presentation. If you could allow me about 5 to 6 minutes, I'll try to keep it as short as I can. Well, what is Make in India? Well, it's a campaign of the central government aimed at transforming India into a preferred global manufacturing hub. So it has a raft of proposals to improve the ease of doing business. It covers almost all sectors. By the way, why is Make in India so crucial to our economy? I think, one, it has to improve our cost competitiveness. There's a compelling need for job creation, promoting inclusive growth. And fourth, manufacturing sector is always has a multiplier effect. So that's a very, very important sector because with one job in manufacturing sector, you create one job in logistics and one in services. So therefore, there's a huge vision. Today, the manufacturing sector contributes only 15% of our economy and employs just about 60 million people, which is about 12% of our total workforce. And the vision is to take this to 25% of our GDP. So that's a big, big ask, and they're expecting that another 100 million jobs would be added over the next 7 years. If that be so, what are the real factors which will decide that manufacturing will happen in India or in some other countries? Why should India become a preferred destination? So some research has been done, and some very interesting parameters have come out of this research. If I can share with you on the screen. Okay, so these are some of the parameters I talked of. Why do we need to why this initiative is so important? We talked of cost competitiveness, compelling need for job creation, promoting inclusive growth, and manufacturing sector being a multiplier effect. Okay, and currently we said that manufacturing sector contributes only 15% to our GDP, employs about 12 million people, about 60 billion people, and the goal is to add another 100 million people over the next 7 years by taking this contribution to 25% of the GDP. So if that be so, what are the real factors which will decide that India becomes a manufacturing powerhouse? Now these are some of the 9 factors which decide whether India will become, or any country will become, a preferred manufacturing destination. Number 1 is human capital, which is talent-driven innovation, which is 16% weight. The second is economic, trade, tax and financial systems. Third is cost and availability of labor. Then we have legal and regulatory systems, supplier network, physical logistics and infrastructure. So there we have number of parameters which we decide. This is an important slide which I want to spend 2 minutes with you. We've compared India with Germany, US, Japan and China and Brazil over all these parameters. And we find, if you find talent-driven innovation, we are just about average. And this is going to be, going forward, a very, very big challenge. Germany is at 9.5. If you look at physical infrastructure, and which you guys have been talking very rightly, we are at 1.8, which is the lowest on a 10-point scale. compared to China, which is at 6.5, US and Germany, which are near 10. But overall, we are not bad. Overall, we are on the fourth situation at 7.7 on 10. Therefore, if you look at the issues, the real issues are physical infrastructure, our regulatory systems, ease of doing business. These are some of the issues which are going to be the critical ones, including the human capital. So if you look at talent-driven innovation, I really want to share this point with you. We are in a real catch-22 situation. We don't feel it today. Our education apparatus is in dismal state. Only 41% of children in class 5 can read a class 2 books. A class 5 government school student can read only a class 2 textbook. That's a reality. The state of higher education is no better. We need to reach that level another 1,500 universities. And we took 62 years to create 450 universities. Just imagine the kind of time. Our curricula is absolutely outdated, and vocational education system is absolutely in shivers. On top of that, by 2030, we would be the youngest country in the world over the next 20 to 30 years. So we have a huge demographic dividend available to us going forward, starting from 2020 till about 2040, 2050. Those could actually be the golden years for India, but we are in a catch-25, 22 situation, which is a very, very huge challenge. Some data here. We are likely to be 130 crore people by 2022, out of which the working population between 16 to 59 would be about 80 crores. Skilled labor of this would be about 33 crores, and unskilled, unusable labor will be about 48 crores. Now, this is a scary, scary situation given the current rate and the current system of education and vocational training which we do. So 48 crore individuals, youngsters, boys and girls, could be unusable even though they are ready for employment. They'll be unusable because they have not been adequately trained if the current process remains, goes. So this, to my mind, is a huge challenge which the country may face. So on one hand, about 700 million skilled workforce would be required to meet the needs of the growing sector by 2022. On the other, 48 crore people could be unemployed because of education and skilling gaps. And this could be really a demographic nightmare instead of a demographic opportunity. So at Volvo, we have developed a state-of-the-art training and skill development center using simulators, and we've already trained close to 10,000 operators and made them employable. Likewise, for trucks and bus drivers, we've trained about 40,000 drivers at our training school. We've started an innovation lab in Bangalore for ideating and incubating new ideas. I think this is something very, very important and which really want to share with you all so that we can be partners in this journey wherever we can work together. The next is physical infrastructure, which we've all talked in detail. And on physical infrastructure, I think roads is one of the major issues on which a lot of work has been done in the past. But I think when it comes to ODC and all, I think still a long, long way to go. And that's going to be a key concern as well. Our current logistics cost as a nation is close to 13% of our GDP, which is very, very high. And savings at 1% on the logistics cost would mean about close to $3 billion. I think, so you guys, you gentlemen, can really contribute to this, and protected time and avoidable waste is one of the main reasons for the time taken to commute. And I think with this initiative which has been taken this morning, a lot of things will improve in this area. Now, steps required for improving road infrastructure, I think regulation and registration, approvals, crossing borders, bureaucracy, and I think these are some of the things. The idea is transporting more with less, and that is where I think this initiative would help. And hydraulic trailers really are the key imperative for the future. There is no doubt. I'm not going to talk about it because they are the only material, only method of transportation which can go for a landlocked places in the country. The length and breadth of the country can be, and key transporter for all project construction such as dams, power plants, etc. Okay, ODC cargo movement issues, I think we have discussed. I think the new act, which is at a draft stage, will help to have a proper hydraulic trailer and puller combination approved in the MV Act, which was not been recognized earlier. I think this is going to help in this a lot. Just a couple of words about Volvo. Volvo in India is basically trying to provide holistic solutions. Whether it's trucks, we have the Volvo FH, FM, FMX range for trucks. We have the development of infrastructure. We have excavators. We have road equipment. We have all the earth-moving equipment. And we have transportation for people, which is the Volvo buses. So we cover the entire 360-degree when it comes to creating infrastructure and transportation. And our mantra is safety first. And I think that's what Volvo has been demonstrating over the last many years, whether through efficiency, quality, safety, and technology. And we have given a number of solutions to you all in the Volvo puller tractor solutions for over-dimensional cargo. And we promise you that we will continue to do so and bring the best technology in the world for you so that you can continue, so that the puller tractor should not become an issue for you. You only have to deal with other issues. So, of course, a lot of fuel saving by our technology. We have some numbers which I don't want to share at this stage. And we have contributed a lot to India by bringing state-of-the-art technology. For us, India as a home, we are #1 in premium buses, trucks, and construction equipment. We have 35,000 vehicles in India, 300 support points, 3 industrial factories, and 40,000 drivers trained by Volvo. And we have 1,000 engineers supporting Volvo Group System in IT process, and 1,000 engineers doing design for trucks globally, sitting out of Bangalore. So, Make in India campaign, to us, we see an area of high opportunity and administrative reforms in India. We are very excited about what's happening, what was spoken this morning both by the ministers and many dignitaries here. We're excited, and we assure you that Volvo will always be with you in your journey. We will be there to troubleshoot things together with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Now I will request Shri A. Badusha ji, who's the Deputy Director from ARAI, Pune. ARAI has also been very instrumental in recommending the modular hydraulic axles into the Motor Vehicle Act, and he has some viewpoints. I would ask him to take over.
Respected Chibasa and everyone here, very good afternoon to you. First of all, let me thank the organizers for inviting ARAI here to be in this progressive function today. As many of you may not know what ARAI is, it's called the Automotive Research Association of India, located in the city of Pune, which was started in the year 1966. We are coming under the Ministry of Heavy Industry, but we do a lot of work for the Ministry of Road Transport and Highways. We are having a manpower around 600 plus people who are involved in the services, the technical services on testings, regulation, and even the development work. 2 major laboratories functioning here are the powertrain lab, the emission lab, the automotive electronics, the vehicle evaluation lab, safety lab, and the NVH and CI labs. Besides, we also have an academy, as the expert from Volvo was speaking about the need for transforming our education system and then training people. This academy we have started with the industry to find out where are the lacuna, and then this helps in creating manpower to meet these requirements. The activities, major activities include, the R&D work, the testing and certification of all type of vehicles, including trailers, assisting Government of India in formulating the regulatory standards and also the international harmonization of standards. We also do consulting, and we are also in the education. To brief you again what ARAI has done, ARAI has played a key role in bringing the requirements and provisions of modular hydraulic trailers under the gambit of CMVR. The recommendations are with the ministry. It's likely to be out soon. Besides, ARI has also worked on the formulation of an automotive trailer code. Today, as like in modular hydraulic trailers, we don't have a code for the automotive trailers. Today, it's following the approval system of a design approval, which is linked to the educational institutes, and that is by the individual states. We are trying to bring in a centralized system where there will be a type approval procedure and a type approval and certification procedure for all such trailers, which will talk about all the performance requirements, the safety critical components in the trailer, and as well as the compatibility of the tractor and the trailer combinations with respect to, the braking, the communication systems, and the electrical systems. Obviously, getting to the topic here of on this panel discussion is what are the benefits of hydraulic trailers. I would like to highlight that it is permitting the uniform distribution of load that is being discussed today. But with a word of caution here is, while we have so many number of axles, it is also relevant to notice or to judge what is the load coming per axle. Today the ministry guidelines are that the axle load is limited to 10.2 tons. So it is always a requirement to check that every axle which is coming on that, taking the load, should not have that exceeding that ton. So this is again a factor to be considered in our design as well as the load distribution among the modular axles. It can again handle heavy loads, say even some 35 metric tons to 5,000 metric tons. The cargoes can be more stable, and each modular unit is steerable, which promotes the maneuverability and turning of long combinations. It's more flexible. It can be arranged modularly, can be decided based on the technical suitability of the cargo. So the number of axles can be increased left, right, or the length side, and it provides adjustable ride control height. It can also have different outriggers in the front, which again helps in taking the load of the cargo to the tractor axles, I would say. And it also comes with safety locks for disconnection of trailers, which are very relevant when the trailer is decoupled with the tractor. And I also highlight here that the new design of gooseneck hydraulic trailers. They are available with low bed trailers, which help in safer transportation of cargo. During the dynamic situations when the CG is also much lowered. And these gooseneck designs are coming with more positions of connection to the tractor. And this also helps in the transfer of load to the tractor, thereby reducing the ballast required on the tractor to a certain extent. Coming back to the other point on the assistance from the government to enhance this the movement of modular hydraulic trailers, there is a need to technically and administratively look at the requirements and formulate norms, and the implementation of this should happen smoothly. There was a need to address non-uniformity in the existing state rules and make provisions under the central rules, the CMVR. The first step was to define what is the puller tractor. It's basically a multi-axle truck, N3 category truck, what we normally call it as in the European context, and as well as the Indian context today, and with appropriate ballast weight for purpose of traction. There was a need to define also the horsepower of the tractor, so we said, okay, minimum 260 horsepower should be the minimum requirement of the tractor. Then also there was a need to define what is a modular hydraulic trailer, and there was, we also moved again to the national level system so that each trailer need not be notified by the extraordinary gazette. So this is a notification which allow free movements with basic type approval of the conventional allowable trailers. Then we have also worked on the number of axle combinations, which now will permit 8 axle rows, again with some conditional approvals depending on the load carrying capacity and the overall load and load distribution effects. And the length has been increased from the current 18 meters to 19 meters. The height of the combination is increased from 4.2 to 4.75 meters. The overall length of the combination is now up to 29 meters. That is, the tractor and trailer combination together will go to up to 29 meters. And the width, overall width has been increased from 2.6 to 3 meters. The basic cause of concern, as I already told you, is the load carrying capacity of the modular hydraulic trailer and the load distribution equally among the axles. That needs to be ascertained all the time. And the life of the trailer is another aspect that we have defined is to be about 25 years. Not more than 25 years should be allowed on the roads. And the braking requirements, of course, for the puller tractor, because they are expected to run only at slow speeds of 20 kilometers per hour. So we also decided what is the stopping distance. I would say this is a very preliminary thing to start with, but in the long run we have to work on detailed braking regulations for such heavy tractors.
So I I thank you, sir, Badusha, sir.
Yeah.
You know, because there are a lot of technical things which is already mentioned in our hydraulic journal also.
Yeah.
So Honorable Secretary, sir, you have heard most of our panelists which are coming from the user segment, from the manufacturer segment, from the consultants, from the bridge study segment, from ARAI, and I'm sure you do understand the importance and benefits of hydraulic trailers for movement of heavy cargo and taking the bigger projects forward and making the government's Make in India initiative a dream come true. So I would request you.
Well, I think as far as I'm concerned, there was no need for me to be educated about the benefits of hydraulic trailers. And the very fact that we are here today is ample testimony that we all are on the same page. But I think while concluding, let's have a quick round of interjections from the audience. If there's anything that, any specific area that you would like the panel to address yourself to, which you feel is uncovered, because by and large, I think the consultants who've been the backbone of this initiative, they have given you the thinking behind and how it started and where we are, and you have a resonance from the actual users. Yes, please.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Well, I think...
Sir, is there any provision for the gooseneck to be coupled to the hydraulic modular trailers in the amended Motor Vehicle Act?
Mr. Jibber, a question for you. We are not only in the hydraulic trailer industry, but in the general transport industry, we have to take a fitness certificate every year for our trailers. And we have to return the trailer to the home state where it is registered. Can you please look into this and address that situation for us?
Yeah, I think the second part is very easy. The new architecture will enable any vehicle owner, not only a hydraulic vehicle owner, to have the fitness test done in any part of the country. Similarly, for licensing, you can go again to any part of the country. So the whole thing about going back to the same RTO, all that business is going to be a thing of the past.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chief.
And harmonization will happen, but not in the Act itself. It can be done through other ways. This harmonization that you're referring, it need not be embedded into the Act.
Sir, then would the RTO allow us to apply?
Yes, yes, he will allow you, but not necessarily through the Act. It could be in the rules or any other amendment.
Thank you, sir.
So, sir, apart from that, we already heard you earlier where you have also mentioned that this permission, online permission today, what we are taking the permission was restricted to the NHAI roads, and you are also bringing in the state roads under the purview of this permission. So there will be one seamless permission from the origin to the destination. So we are the hydraulic axle owners, operators are looking for that, so that there is no state level approvals required on that, sir.
This is something we still have to work towards, but I'm sure the state governments will come on board the moment we explain to them the overall effort that is being put in place. I'm sure they will come in.
Yes. Any more questions from the audience, from the users?
Sir, I'm from Larsen & Toubro, Heavy Manufacturing Division. See, our expectation from portal is, see today this capacity of the plants are going up, which is impacting capacity of the equipment also. So if portal gives your breach capacity, so planning can be done at the time of conception of project rather than down the line 2 years. So that sort of help if we get it well in advance, the way he was explaining, plan can be made, equipment sections can be decided in advance rather than doing it at the end.
See, if you recall, I mentioned in my opening remarks, I wish we had launched this portal today after the first round of conditional surveys were complete. We would then be speaking with a little more confidence about the capacities of the various bridges that you will encounter. To that extent, there is going to be a continuing hesitation till that first round is complete, which should be a max of 6 months. Thereafter, not only we will have clarity, but you as users will also have clarity as to which particular artery would give you the optimum kind of a solution. So I think we are now well on our way towards getting that clarity. I would only request, please wait for a couple of more months. Not only us, but you all will have the same clarity. The data that we would be having, we will try and embed it into this architecture, so that as that data speaks to us, you will be listening as much as we would be listening to it.
Any more questions? Anybody, sir? Yes.
Just I would like to know for this ODC vehicles in India, is ABS is a mandatory?
ABS?
Yes.
ABS at this moment, anti-braking system, I don't think it is, Mr. Badusha will be or maybe able to answer. Sir, but at this moment, I don't think ABS is absolutely mandatory on the heavy vehicles.
Okay, thank you.
Let me tell you on ABS, on the truck side, there is the N3 category of vehicles. There is a move to make it mandatory for all the type of trucks, the heavy trucks.
Okay, not for trailers.
Trailers also will be subsequently, because there is a trailer code which is addressing that also.
Oh,
it will be introduced.
Yes.
Let me put it this way. I think all commercial vehicles, this would become mandatory unless you can convince us that this is not required for some reason. Otherwise, we would be erring on the side of safety.
That's why, but at present I don't see in any regulations is mandatory.
But what my colleague is saying is that they are on the anvil. So it is something that is going to come unless you are able to convince those who are in this business that this is not required from a safety perspective.
Yeah. Myself, Ashirwad from Volvo Trucks. This is for Mr. Badusha and Mr. Chimber. There's a term used, power to weight ratio, which is very important for selection of machinery. So in the new act, are we considering to include that? It's a power to weight ratio. That is very important in selection of machinery, in terms of puller, in terms of tractor unit, which pulls the unit. Like if it's 100 ton, total like cargo is 100 ton, 120 tons. So what is a suitable puller, with what capacity horsepower puller should be deployed? So internationally the same has been followed, but yeah.
We understand this requirement in Europe, which is around say 3.4 or 3.5 kilowatt per ton.
Yeah.
We have been discussing this in the panel, and we also need to look at what is the available vehicles today in the market, which is going to help you in the movement of the cargo. So it has to go with that. We are working towards that. If it is probably now with this introduction of this 260 horsepower as a minimum, that will pave the way for the next step to move towards that power to weight ratio requirement.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, gentlemen.
Hello, I'm Praveen Rao from Nuclear Power Corporation of India Limited. My question is to Mr. Tandon. This is regarding this evaluation of the bridge for the heavy equipment transportation. See, in this, whatever the guidelines has given, that is given as a single one-dimensional bridge analysis for the different type of box girders, T-beam girders, or the solid slab girders, all those things. And the simplification is done, and all the axles which was mentioned in the guidelines is 18 ton per axles you have mentioned. Even though it is, sometimes the Lexer axle for 25 tons also can be carried. That can be evaluated from, extrapolated from your guidelines.
What exactly is the question?
Pardon?
What is the question?
So can you ask a pointed question?
The extrapolation can be done with this, what? Yeah.
You mean 18 tons beyond that?
Beyond that.
No, I think that the present studies that we have done, there is, if you are an engineer, structural engineer, you will understand there is the longitudinal effects and there are transverse effects. Both have to be taken into account. So when you talk about this limitation of 18 tons, it holds good because sometimes the transverse governs instead of the longitudinal. So you cannot generalize. You have to make sure that with the configuration of loading which is given, which is also specified, you take a cross section, what it looks like, the wheels under the axle, each axle, that is also given. So you have to stick to that, and 18 tons is really the limit of these loadings which we have considered. 18 tons per axle.
So does this mean that any axles more than 18 ton is not permitted on the road, on the bridges for the hydraulic using hydraulic axles?
No. You see, to determine how many axles you require, if you have a load to be transported, you must know how many axles this is a modular thing, it is not fixed. It's not like a truck or something like that which has got no option but to stay at the same size. You can make it double the size if you want. And the load will be distributed uniformly. 18 tons per axle is the maximum you can have. That's the...
Second question, I can compare your guidelines, whatever the stresses developed due to this 18-ton axle combination you have given, with the stresses developed with the 70-yard load combination for the same type of bridge. I can compare if we can make that comparison.
Yes, actually the whole study is based on the IRC loading, and 70R is one of the loadings which you have to study to make sure that any bridge is safe for it.
Sir,
so,
if you go into the hydraulic, that heavy alert magazine which has been issued today, you will be having a copy. If you'll see that there are these load charts which have been prepared by their agency, where different combination of axles and different 70R bridges, all those red and green marks are there, so you'll be able to study in that, sir. Yeah, you'll answer all your questions over there.
Study is the comparison between IRC loading and the hydraulic trailers loading.
Yes.
So thank
Good
you.
afternoon.
We might have to take that question offline, sir, keeping in with the timings of the session.
Just a minute, just one question.
Okay, that'll be the last question then.
Yeah. My name is Ramesh from Cometo. The question is that we are having, normally what we have is a 3-axle trailer with a 2-axle primer as the maximum configuration for 49-ton loading. Above that, we go for hydraulic axles to start straight away. But why government has not still considered having 4, 5, 6 or 7 axles line, which is commonly used in Europe, which is like more, this is also hydraulic axle or with pneumatic suspension, where our more of the loads actually, if you see, from more than 49 to 80-ton category is more commonly used. And above that, actually, people go for hydraulic more as modular trailers. So government really has to address this paradigm shift. Like in the trucks, actually, we have a 2-axle truck, then 3-axle truck, 4-axle truck, and now 5-axle truck has come into picture. Similarly, for the trailers also, actually, we have limited up to 3-axle trailer with a mechanical suspension or with a pneumatic suspension. The government really need to consider 4, 5, 6 up to 8-axle configuration, which will actually cater to 80-ton payload. Above that, actually, probably then there is a gamut of other options like modular hydraulic axle trailers, which also caters to the complete segment of the transportation. So if the government addresses that in total, actually then we'll be more in line with the global practices and also meeting the global requirement. What it paves the way is the width of the vehicle is also reduced, like it can be within the limit of 2.6 meter allowed by the regulations. And then when we come to 3 meters, then it becomes a modular trailers. So I think this also should be addressed by the government. If you can have a view, sir.
I think we were waiting for this seminar to happen and your suggestion to come up. So we'll look into this. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much once again to the esteemed dignitary. I'm afraid, so we'll have to take that offline during lunch. Lunch is coming up very, very soon. We have to now thank our eminent panelists with small tokens of appreciation. Thank you once again to Shri Vijay Chibbar. A huge round of applause for Secretary, Ministry of Road Transport and Highways. I request the other dignitaries to kindly be on stage. May I invite Mr. Nilesh Patel to present the first one to Shri Dave, Executive Director, BHEL. May I request Mr. R. Narayan to step up, if he's here.
Mr. Nilesh.
Mr. R. Narayan, may I request you to present it to Shri Dave, Executive Director, BHEL. May I request Mr. Janesh Gulati to step on stage next and present the next one to Mr. Mahesh Tandon. We thank our esteemed panelists for their views, their time, their presence. Thank you so much, Mr. Tandon. May I request Mr. Aditya Bankar to please step forth and present the next one to Mr. A.A. Badusha. May I request Mr. Bharat Gandhi to kindly step up on stage. Mr. Bharat Gandhi is here. Mr. Rama Rao, or Mr. Bharat Gandhi to kindly step up on stage on behalf of HTOA, present the next one. Mr. Patel, Jignesh Patel is stepping up, and I request you to present it to Mr. BML Garg. Huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. We thank you. And may I request the HTOA member to present it to Mr. Harsh Dhingra. Huge round of applause is there. We would request another of our HTOA team member, maybe Mr. Pradeep Bansal, to step forward and present it to Shri Aditya Sharma. And we must present one to our moderator as well, Mr. Rajesh Gupta. So thank you very much, esteemed dignitaries, once again.